In this video you will listen to 8 true stories about sleep paralysis. But before we start, let's give a brief explanation to the new listeners that may not know about this phenomenon. While falling asleep or waking up, your brain sends signals that relax muscles in your arms and legs. The result, muscle atonia, helps you remain still during rapid eye movement, REM, sleep. With sleep paralysis, you regain awareness but can't move. During an episode of Sleep Paralysis episode, you're aware of your surroundings but cannot move or speak. But you can still move your eyes and breathe. Many people hear or see things that aren't there, hallucinations, making episodes even more frightening. They last anywhere between a few seconds and a few minutes. Now let's begin the series. Story 1. By Soham Jayanth. Okay, this story is a bit weird, but hey, I was asleep. I think. I was around 10 years old, and I was going to bed at around 10 o'clock. Oh, how I missed those days. The rest of my family was still up, so I was all alone upstairs, in a dark room, going to sleep. Seems normal so far, right? Well, hold on. After about 5 minutes laying down in bed, I'm awake but dreaming. I started to lucid dream. It was weird because that was the first and last experience so far with lucid dreaming. I was placed in a weird summer camp in Hawaii, and there is an arts and crafts session going on. People were crafting tikis. And for some reason, I was deathly afraid of tikis. So I ran into a different room, only to be confronted with kids younger than me wearing tiki masks and laughing at me. This is when I start to freak the F out. Every time I saw a tiki, my body would surge with this tingling sensation, and I would try to wiggle or get some sort of resistance to the tingling. My body was struggling to get up and shout, but to no avail. Neither my arms nor legs could move. I tried to open my eyes, but my eyelids were snapped shut. I was eventually able to get up, but I was still seeing tikis everywhere. I was stumbling all over the place since I was still fighting the sleep paralysis. I ran downstairs and screamed, because, well, you can't just say I see tikis and I can't move without any context. I slept in my parents' bedroom that night. Story 2. By Emmanuel Mathew. It was nearing the end of my second semester, and as I was procrastinating on my assignments and seminars for 2 or 3 days straight, I used to stay up very late getting my work done and went to class the very next day. I was barely functioning as a human being and realized the importance of a good night's sleep. Anyway, I was successful in submitting everything before the last date. That night, there was a football tournament and everybody from my campus hostel was really excited to go. I too was interested, but as my whole sleep cycle was in a ruin, I chose to stay instead. The hostel inside the campus wasn't really that big and many students opted for outside hostel because of the strict rules. So we were only 16 or something together. By evening, all of them went and I was the only one in the hostel. I shared my room with a mate and our beds were against the wall. To the right of my bed, across the hall, there was the door, and to the left, the window. By evening, all of them went and I was all alone. I had dinner way early and went to bed around 8 or 9 and instantly fell asleep. The next thing I remember is looking at the side where the door is. As there was moonlight through the window, it wasn't pitch black at the room, so the side where the door was somewhat visible. Then it happens, from the shadowy side where the door is, something emerges and started walking towards the window side. My first thought was that my roommate is back, but that thought didn't even last a second because the figure was almost 7 foot tall and was covered in black. There was no face I could see, but the physical appearance resembled a human. I tried to move my head, but didn't move an inch, tried to say something but couldn't open my mouth. My limbs were also frozen. So, there I lie, motionless, while a black figure almost 7 foot tall was walking through the middle of the room. As the figure reached the window side, it started to walk back to the side where the door is. So, it kept on going from one side to other side. It was like the scene from the movie Insidious where a ghost walks outside the room, but inside in my case. Gradually the pace at which it was moving was getting fast. I wanted to cry or scream or at least move, but it was not possible, and that feeling is something I hope no one ever goes through. Then as the figure reached near my bed, it stopped and quickly came towards me with making a really wild sound and movement, and it almost reached my face. Finally it was over. There was no black figure anymore, but everything else in the room was as exactly as it was during my sleep paralysis session, so I couldn't understand whether what happened was just my imagination or real. I didn't cry or move. So I just lay there motionless, and then the tears came. For about 10 minutes or more, I was in a state of shock because I have not heard about sleep paralysis being like this before that incident. I was not sure whether that black thing was real or my imagination. After some time, with the courage I can manage, I reached for my phone, which was on the desk near my bed. It was past 2 a.m. but still called my sister as she was the closest sibling, but she didn't pick up. I decided to not call anyone else and opened Google and searched about sleep paralysis. I was finally relieved to know that the black figure was common with episodes of sleep paralysis, and it wasn't really in my room. Before we move on to the next story, I just wanted to give a friendly reminder. Reminder that these stories are dark and not for the faint of heart. They stimulate your imagination for the worse. A mind haunted by the voices coming from seemingly nowhere. So, if you are feeling uncomfortable, you better grab a friend and listen together. Because it's only going to get even darker from here onwards. Story 3 by Carl J. Lembouma. It happened 2 weeks ago from now. It wasn't my first one. I'm a light sleeper, so I'm pretty used to it. My first one was terrifying, but when I learned it was just my brain playing tricks, whenever it happened again I wasn't afraid at all and would wait it off or try to move my limbs as much as possible until they eventually move. But that last one surely terrified me for quite a bit because it didn't happen as it usually would. It was late, and as usual I wasn't feeling sleepy, so I stayed up throughout the whole night in my living room, watching TV, and when 5 a.m. came I decided to sleep on my sofa. I laid down on my chest, my head turned toward the TV, and closed my eyes. A little time after I opened them up, I was in my dream. In it, I was completely dizzy, still laying on my chest. My room, which was pretty similar to my real one, was completely filled with a dark mist. The TV was on but with no image and no sound. It was blank and the light emanating from it was barely visible. Suddenly, a dark figure formed itself right in front of me between me and my TV, and I wasn't somehow afraid of it. I didn't move, smiled as if I knew it was seeking help and I could somehow help by praying for it. As it was standing there, I said with a clear voice, while being in the same position with my eyes half open from my dizziness, "All of the spirits near me, come to me, I will make you pass to the other side. Come. Don't be afraid, come to me, I will help you." For more human-like shapes formed themselves in the mist, and they stood around the first one. The first one then started walking slowly towards me and stopped not so far away from me. While laying on my chest still, I said, "In the name of," and before saying Jesus, a powerful force of a magnitude I couldn't even imagine or describe suddenly pressed the back of my neck. It paralyzed me, made me deaf, my mouth still open. The dark shadows disappeared but the mist stayed. My eyes rolled back and didn't move as I tried to move them. It was like a constant and powerful tension flowing through my body, paralyzing me completely and instantly. I tried to fight it to snap out of it, but I quickly felt powerless and knew I had lost control. I started to fear for my life, with a tear flowing across my paralyzed face. It lasted like forever, when all of a sudden the force let go of me. I immediately woke up moving my arms and legs as if I freed myself from something holding me, with my mouth fully open, watery eyes and pure fear and anger. I sat there on my sofa wondering what the heck was that, because all of the sleep paralysis I experienced before occurred when I was just coming out of a dream and was awake in our reality but couldn't move. I would do my best to free myself and it would eventually work 30 seconds or so after, then I would go back to sleep or fully wake up. But this time it happened in a dream, in an unusual way, affected me in our reality, was caused by something, which never happened to me before, and the dream was really bizarre to say the least. I don't even pray, and when I looked at the time I realized I only slept for 12 minutes. I didn't understand it and still don't. It occupied my thoughts for quite a bit, but then I decided to class it as another type of sleep paralysis experience, and since then I don't think much of it anymore. But I don't fully believe it was my brain playing tricks. I believe in the paranormal, so I would be open to it being a paranormal experience. Whatever it was, it scared the hell out of me. Story 4. Jack Wilson. I have always been interested by sleep paralysis and have watched many videos and read many stories on it, so I know what it's all about. However, I never experienced it myself until last night, January 1st, 2019. Due to the research, I was led to believe that sleeping on your back increased your chances of getting sleep paralysis and also left you prone to everything being more visible if you were to get it. Because of this, I always sleep on my side or on my front. Unfortunately, this didn't solve my problem. So I decided to try and sleep around 12:30 a.m. Everything was normal and I assumed normal sleeping position, on my stomach, one arm under the pillow. Fine. I was having a dream that me and my girlfriend were walking down a street, drunk, and I had the ability to super jump. Weird, I know. So I jumped in the middle of the street, and I kept going up, and up and up into the sky. I empty all my pockets to try and make myself come back down to earth, which makes no sense because surely having the weight would bring me down. Anyway, it fades out and I wake up, but something isn't normal. Now I know with most cases people aren't yet asleep, and sleep paralysis usually occurs before dreaming. However, I woke up, into this state. I was laid in my bed, and everything seemed okay, all lights were off and the room was pitch black. I begun to hear this heavy breathing. Firstly, I just assumed it was my girlfriend who was asleep next to me, until I realized it was further away than I thought. The breathing got closer and closer. I tried to move my arms, but they felt like 10-ton weights. I tried to make noise to try and awake my girlfriend, but my mouth wouldn't open. Eventually, after struggling, I managed to grip my bedside table, unsure why I tried this, but I was so scared that I was just trying to move anything anywhere anyhow. After maybe 15 seconds of the breathing getting closer, and me managing to hold onto my bedside table, the breathing stopped. I felt relieved, but then after 10 or so seconds later, tap asterisk on the end of my bed. I didn't only hear the taps, but I felt them vibrate the bed, and felt warmth near my legs as if someone was stood over them. Then it finished. I awoke and turned to my phone to check the time. It was 1:12 a.m. I had only been dreaming / in this state for a maximum of 42 minutes. It was so strange because I felt in control of everything, I just couldn't do anything. I remember precisely saying in my own head, "It's not real, turn away." And I remembered everything I had read saying other people couldn't move. And I remember trying harder than anything to make a sound, anything, but having no success. Needless to say, I hope this isn't the beginning of me getting this regularly, and really do hope it was a one-off. I was terrified, and without sounding big-headed, nothing scares me easily. Let's wait and see tonight. Story 5. By Farooque. I have only experienced sleep paralysis once. It was terrifying, and even more so because at that time I was not aware of the existence of something called sleep paralysis. I was living in Dubai and had gotten home from work. I was very tired, so I decided to go take a nap while my mom was getting dinner ready. After a while, I woke up, or thought I had woken up, but my entire body was paralyzed. I could not move a single muscle, and then I opened my eyes and saw an old woman's face on my chest as if she was lying down on top of me. Her face was incredibly scary and wrinkly, and she had white, frizzy hair. I screamed at the top of my lungs, but guess what? No sound came out. I could feel the muscles in my throat trying to make a sound, but nothing was happening. I used to practice Islam at that time, so I mentally started to recite Quranic verses, which are supposed to protect you, but for the first time in my life I couldn't remember any. Like I said before, it was terrifying. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I got a thought that if I closed my eyes and focused all my energy on making a small movement, it would all go away. I have no idea where or why I got this thought. So I closed my eyes and focused my entire energy on moving a thumb. Finally, I managed to move the tip of my thumb, and all of a sudden I was awake and fully able to move. I thought I had had a ghost encounter, and I went running from the room into the living room where my parents were and started sobbing. This is when my sister comforted me and told me about the old hag syndrome. She then proceeded to Google the term and show me results so I would feel better that it was not a ghost encounter but something people experience regularly enough for it to widely be reported on the internet. Needless to say, I felt much better after. This was over 6 years ago and has never happened again since. Although, thinking about the event always makes me feel a little scared and makes my heart beat faster. If you enjoy listening to stories like this, I'd like to let you guys know that if you have any spine-chilling crazy stories that you want to share with the listeners, you can send it over to horroxperiencemedia@gmail.com. I'll also have the link down below in the description, so don't worry, you will be able to send your story after you've finished listening. Story 6. By Tracy Conn. Right now seems like a good time to share this, as I sit here unable to go back to sleep after what was probably my 40th episode of sleep paralysis. I tend to have extreme hallucinations along with the paralysis, making the experience extremely traumatic. My first experience was when I was 19 or 20, in college, and 3 days after being terrified in the theater watching The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Perfect. I will never forget the experience. I woke up, so I thought, and looked at the clock. It was 3 a.m. exactly. I felt a looming, very dark, evil presence in my room and realized I was completely paralyzed, with the exception of my head. This is part of the hallucination. I now know that in all actuality I was hallucinating being able to move my head and look around the room. Then it started. I had a lovely white, extremely fluffy white down comforter pulled all the way up to my chin. I felt the extreme pressure on my chest. I felt something pushing me into my bed, suffocating me. When I looked down, I saw a huge impression in my comforter where I felt the pressure, and saw it getting deeper, pushing me down further. I tried to scream when I heard the bed springs squeak under me, as whatever this thing was pushed and pushed. I couldn't speak. The best I could get out was hushed gargling. I then felt like there was pressure on my neck, choking me. I can't express how deeply terrified I was. I couldn't move a single muscle in my body. My arms felt like they were too heavy to lift. I couldn't sit up, despite trying with every bit of strength I had. I, at the time, considered myself agnostic/atheist/ whatever college students who think God is for stupid people say that they are, and I actually thought there was a demon on my chest, trying to either kill me or possess me. I thought it would never end, and it seemed to last forever. And then, I felt myself close my eyes, and the thing was gone. I said my roommate's name to see if I could speak again. I could. I looked down at my comforter, and there was no trace of anything unusual. I immediately jumped out of my bed, hysterically crying, trembling, and scared the shit out of my roommate when I woke her up this way. I spent the rest of the night, sleepless, in her bed. I was completely traumatized, and so was my roommate. The next day, I moved my bed right next to my roommate's. I'm a big baby. But, so was she, so it was okay. It stayed this way until the end of the year. We moved her desk into my room and made it the office. I couldn't sleep in my room alone again. I didn't experience another attack for about a year, but the next time it happened a lot. Each experience was a bit different during that first phase of episodes. I experienced violent shaking of my bed, to wake up to a dark figure standing to the right of my bed, physically shaking it. Another time, I felt my bed turning over, and felt myself sliding off, or being pulled off, along with my covers, and not being able to hold on and keep myself from sliding due to the paralysis. Other times, I felt like I was being held in whatever position I woke up in and was having a seizure. Now, I tend to experience a lot of these at once, along with a floating feeling, where I can't move myself, but I'm being lifted, or parts of me are being lifted by something else. I see things moving/shaking often. Tonight I woke up in the position where I was looking at a chandelier above and to the right of my bed, and felt like my head was being pushed that direction by whatever was to the left of my bed, but I couldn't direct my eyes to whatever it was just out of vision. But as I looked at the chandelier, it was swinging back and forth. I had the seizure sensation in my whole face, and my upper body was being lifted up and down. Oh, and I thought it was storming outside. It wasn't. Every episode one tried to scream. I don't exactly know why, as at this point, I know good and well nothing more than a faint gurgle will come out, but it's not something I can control. The panic completely consumes me. I'm much more educated about what I'm actually experiencing now, after 7 years of dealing with it, but I can never shake the panic. After the episodes I experience now, I'm much more clear-headed about what just happened than I was as a 20-year-old who felt like a demon had it out for her, but it's still terrifying. The hallucinations, in that moment, seem as real as can be. I stay quite scared and lonely for a while after, and almost exhausted from trying to fight the paralysis and panic. I continue to see shadows and think things are moving around me a few minutes following, and the looming feeling tends to stick around for a moment, as well. For me, these episodes happen in phases, due to stress and lack of sleep, for the most part. When I do experience an isolated incident, it is usually on a night I've had a lot of trouble falling asleep, as was the case tonight. I laid in bed for hours, tossing and turning, and the minute I realized I was asleep, those who have these will recognize that moment, I think, I woke up to paralysis. I've experienced episodes while dozing off to sleep, but usually I am woken up by them after dozing. The paralysis I've experienced while drifting into a doze is usually less frightening because the hallucinations are not as present. It's more just the paralysis and trouble breathing, but I tend to come out of it and then fall right back into paralysis multiple times before being able to actually sleep when this is the case. But I prefer that over the hallucinations, 100x over. Sleep paralysis has been the source of some of the most terrifying experiences of my life, particularly before I was able to figure out what was happening to me, but after I've learned about the disorder as well, as I am overwhelmed by my panic in each hallucination. I come to after, but during that time, I'm almost always just as terrified as the time before. I could not wake myself up from sleep paralysis. By bathroom potential 577. I've had this problem for years where I will feel some of the worst pain I've ever felt in a dream, in my life honestly, where it feels like my teeth are being crushed in my mouth or my teeth have been strapped onto a roller coaster cart and I'm being flung around by them. I will know at that point I'm in a dream and I will do everything in my body to pry my real life eyes open, and eventually if I try hard enough I can wake myself up. Today though, was very different. I started feeling extreme teeth pain in my dream and I'm like, okay, I think I'm dreaming, and so I'm urging myself to wake up, and after I think I wake myself up and I'm in my room, I realize again that I'm still asleep because I feel too heavy and my teeth are continuing to feel like they are being crushed in waves. So I wake up Inception style in my same bed 17 times thinking I've finally woken myself up, before I realize again that something is off about my surroundings. Eventually I think I might be dead and doomed to wander in this dead space limbo forever. I start accepting that either I'm dead or my brain is just refusing to wake up at this point. I go to a dinner party where I'm telling people that I'm dreaming and I can't wake up. They try to help me solve the mystery until I try again to wake up in my bed 5 more times until I give up and let my brain wake up on its own. Again I open my eyes in my bed, not trusting whether I'm awake or not because I still feel so heavy. I lay in this bed for 20 minutes before I come to the conclusion that I might actually be awake. It really freaks me out that I was unable to pull myself out of this dream on my own, and some part of me still believes I could still be dreaming and eventually I'll just wake up in my bed again. Has this happened to anyone else? Where you keep waking up in your own dream and are unable to get yourself out of the loop no matter how hard you try? Also, has anyone had this kind of teeth pain in their dream before? It's truly excruciating, and I know it has something to do with TMJ, but I've never met anyone with a similar experience, and sometimes I think I'm having a literal aneurysm. A near-fatal sensation. By El Gringo Beardo. First, I want to add that this is not my first experience with sleep disorders and probably won't be my last. But it felt like it was going to be. It's 8 p.m. I've been up 45 hours now. Maybe got 15 minutes of sleep at 9 a.m., but I was hellbent on resetting my circadian rhythm to a point where I wouldn't feel these sensations anymore. These sensations that a sleep study concluded was parasomnia, a quench for sleep, but I couldn't stay asleep long enough to feel completely rested. So I was restless. Now, as of 3 minutes ago now, I must have had at least a total of 40 experiences in my lifetime. As I tell you this, I'm employed full-time as an unarmed overnight security guard 50+ hours a week. Maybe it was better I didn't have a gun. I'm diagnosed with PTSD, ADD, major depressive disorder and schizoaffective disorder. I take psychotropics once every morning to treat everything but my ADD because it's an amphetamine. A potent one at 50 milligrams. I'll take 100 milligrams because I'm 200 pounds. In fact, I only take my ADD pill when I'm going to work because it keeps me awake, mixed with high caffeine-laden beverages like Red Bull, but my addictive tendencies have started taking over my self-control. It's become an art of losing control. It's gotten to the point where I need at least 2 20-ounce cans to stay awake the entirety of my shift. 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. 45 to 50 hours a week. This is probably where a lot of my recent SP might be chemically induced. I can't take micronaps like I used to be able to when I was younger. Now I'm kinda terrified to. I'm privy to the precursors of sleep paralysis and what to do. Generally it's awaken from it then go back to sleep. If it doesn't stir you to the point of insomnia. Which, now is definitely chemically induced. I can remember each experience vividly. There's a buzzing sound. Like a low-pitched dentist drill. I don't wince. I can't wince. I can't fucking move Now and again there'll come a time like this one where it begins with either the flickering of a light bulb, usually one above me or directly in front of me, and it becomes consumed by like what I can best describe as like venom, symbiotic, viscous, like black fluid. I hear the sounds of whatever is in the vicinity begin to reverberate and become real slow in speed. My breathing becomes shallow. Just the day before, when I had only slept 2 hours, I had gone to a funeral of a classmate. It was a closed casket service, and rightfully so. But after finding out how they died, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't fathom it. Her horrific way to go. But it's now a day later, many hours later. I'm at my friend's house. I'm laying on his couch and he's watching something on YouTube. His fiancée is sleeping on the couch behind me. My fatigue starts to settle in with a subtle dip downward in my head movement. Around the same time I felt my eyes crossing and then readjusting with difficulty. Then I saw the black symbiotic black specter. It looks like the Grim Reaper this time. The voice on the TV starts trailing off and my head takes a dip to the left. And that's when I knew it started taking its grip. What felt like a solid, deliberate grip underneath my chin and the left side of my neck. Kinda like someone attempting to snap my neck. I jolted out of it, breathing heavily. My friend had no idea what happened or even heard me awaken. His fiancée didn't either. Was what happened real? Or did I just think it? That was all for today. Glad you guys listened till the end. Don't forget to like the video and share with your friends. Also send in your own scary stories at horroxperiencemedia@gmail.com so your work can get featured in my videos. You can find the link in the description. Subscribe for more similar stories and see you guys in the next video.